Press on the link. You see me? You see me shoot the link? Yeah, I'm at the podium right now. Okay, okay. I wanna make sure you can hear me. Give up. Give up. Test. Can you hear me now? הוא יכול לשמוע? בסדר, אולי הוא אמור לשמוע רק מה שליד המיקרופון. לא בטוח שאתה יכול לשמוע את... Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? תגיד בקול כי אני לא שומע אותך. תגיד בקול כי אני לא שומע אותך.
I'll bring it down. מזמור לדוד. אדוני מי יגור ביכולך, משכון בהר קודשך. הולך תמים ובועל צדק בדובר אמס בלבבו. לא זנריה ורפון חזר, חזר קרובו. Nibzebi enov nimas yes yirei Adonai chabed Nishbal horo v'lo yamir Kaspol onosan v'neshech V'shochad al noki lo lokach Osei ele lo yimot leolam. O Lord, who shall dwell in your sanctuary? Who shall abide upon your holy mountain? He who lives with integrity, does what is right, and speaks the truth in his heart. Who has no slander upon his tongue, who does no evil to his fellow man, who does not reproach his neighbor. In his eyes a vile person is despised, but he honors those who revere the Lord. He takes an oath even to his own harm and does not change. Whoever does these things shall stand firm forever. We gather this afternoon to bid an affectionate, a reverent farewell to a beloved son, brother, uncle, husband, father, and grandfather. A warm, motivating friend to those who loved him. Stanley E. Cohen, Shimon Asher ben Avram, for that was his Hebrew name given by grateful parents according to our ancient ritual and law in Harrisburg 85 short years ago. A devoted son to Anne and Abraham Cohen, in whose home and under whose guidance the unique and vibrant core of his being would gestate. A loyal brother to Jerry, Bob, and Joan, to Linda and Howard and Michael. Joan, Stan. They met at summer camp as counselors, and by 1956, at 21 and 24, marriage. And this began over 60 years of love, of life's adventure, and family progression. Stan had his Ezer Kenegdo. But did we know how much of a romantic Stanley was? From Texas, a correspondence in 1954, and he was stationed there with the Army, to Joan. One heart's enough for me. One heart to love, adore. One heart's enough for me. Oh, who could wish for more? The birds that soar above and sing their songs on high ask but for one to love, and therefore should not I. One pair of eyes to gaze, one pair of sparkling blue, in which sweet love betrays her form of fairest hue. One pair of glowing cheeks, fresh as the rose and fair, whose crimson blush bespeaks the health that's native there. One pair of hands to twine love's flowers fair and gay, and form a wreath divine which never can decay. And this is all I ask, one gentle form and fair, beneath whose smiles to bask and learn love's sweetness there. So following military service and discharge to Philadelphia, and further education, a master's at Temple, and a lifetime of positively influencing young minds. Life in the Northeast was good. It was new. And Medway Road and their beloved girls, Lori, and eventually Lori and Leon, Butzi, and then Jay, and Marcy and Chris. And Acharon, the joy of later years, the Einich, the grandchildren, Amitai, Mickey, Akiva, Eitan, Tequila, Alex, Jackson, and Carter. And the very special rewards they each experienced at the time of Bat Mitzvah. Trips that were planned by Joan and Stan at the request of the celebrant. Amitai, he was the first grandchild, and he chose to visit London. Well, he was fascinated with Big Ben Big Eye, and Jack the Ripper. And Mickey, number 2, chose to replicate the steps of the Revolutionary War from Boston to Jamestown. Also visited a submarine and a service boat, a science expedition boat. Akiva, number 3, chose a cruise, a kosher cruise from Haifa full of Russians, and visited Greece and Turkey. Eitan, number 4, chose a bowl game, the Orange Bowl, Penn State and Florida State, triple overtime. And Alexandria, number 5, a cruise to the Caribbean. Wanted to use her passport, rather. Had her hair braided, but she was bitten by a bird in a cage. And Tehillah, number 6, Orlando and Cinderella, was chosen by her. Oh, that's my favorite. The Northeast was very young in those days, as were its institutions. The Shul to be, the GNJC, and later Shera Shemayim, Stan and Joan were in on the ground floor. It was Washington High School, Baldy Middle School, all were new, all required leadership and guidance. And from a tribute in 1965, we hear some of the suggestions, some of the game plan organized by Stan. The means are provided by a sound educational program conducted in an atmosphere and an environment conducive to learning. A part of the environment, the physical plant, while important, must be considered at best secondary to providing sound curricula. Inspired teaching, imaginative presentation of material, high standards of scholarship and intelligent supervision. We sincerely believe that our current educational program is moving in the right direction, that it has been established upon a sound foundation, the development of which required more than lip service to the critical aspects I have mentioned. This sound foundation did not evolve magically. When our congregation was in its formative stage, the guiding forces recognized the need for the establishment of a superior educational program. The tremendous task of starting a school system from scratch, fell largely upon the shoulders of a single individual. It was no mean task. The physical aspects alone might have deterred less dedicated and less determined individuals. Credit for Stan in the establishment of the Hebrew school at Shera Shemayim. We recall these many blessings of Stan's remarkable life. We marvel at the unique yet powerful impact of his journey among us as we read in his memory Psalm 23 in the English together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And now on behalf of family and daughter Marcy.
Thank you all for coming today. I'm not a great speaker like my mother, who I know could come up here and nail it, so you'll forgive me. I'm going to do the best I can. I wanted to talk today about my favorite 10 memories of my father and me. Okay. starting out when I was a little girl. I remember my dad used to carry me on his shoulders. You know how you hold a little kid, and I used to love when he carried me around like that because I was little and I could see over everything, and I felt really cool and tall. So I really loved that. Most of you probably know for a long time my dad was a chemistry teacher, and his chemistry lessons weren't only in school. We were lucky enough to have chemistry lessons at every meal or everywhere we went. So if we were out to eat or even in the kitchen table, and as children notice things like, oh, look at the bubbles that are forming on the outside of that glass, we would get a whole lesson on why the bubbles are forming. The molecules are doing this, and the neutrons and protons are doing that, and this gas is turning to a solid or this whatever. It was constant everywhere, and as children, we probably didn't think it was so cool and zone out. But I got to tell you, now as an adult, whenever we're somewhere, or even with our friends, or even with our children, I can say, you know why that is? And give an explanation, so people think I'm really smart. So thank you, Dad, for that. And my favorite one was, I never could understand a thermos, because it's just a metal bottle. And I'd always say, because if you pour hot in a thermos, it stays hot. And if you pour cold in a thermos, it stays cold. And I would always say, Dad, how does it know which one to do? So he explained that to me, and I still remember to this day. And my third favorite memory is going to the Jersey Shore. I really loved going in the ocean. Mom liked to stay on the beach, but Dad loved to swim in the water, as did I. Loved to be in the water a lot. And when you're a little kid and sometimes the waves, get really big, it's kind of scary to see a big wave coming. And then when I was a kid, my dad taught me all you have to do if a big wave is coming is just duck down in the water, the wave will go over your head, and you come back up and you're fine. He taught me that when I was young, and it was right. So I spent a lot of time in the waves and didn't have to be scared of being knocked over. And he also taught me how to swim through the wave. So if a big wave could come also, he said, you could just swim right through it and come out the other side. So thanks, Dad, for teaching me about the waves. I've used that quite a lot, especially since I moved to Florida when I was 18. My next great memory of Dad on my list of 10 is one time my dad and me and my two sisters went camping. She's laughing already. And I don't remember exactly. Somehow we had a tent, I don't know from where, and some camping supplies and a rubber raft. Probably not your real camping type supplies, but I don't know why, but we went. We put up the tent, blah, 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 unpack all the stuff, and let's go for a ride in the lake on the raft. Yay, okay, we were all for that. So we, blow up the raft, and we go out on the lake, and we get to the middle of the lake, and we hear, Dad, there's water leaking into the raft. So we're all, doing this with this, trying to get back to the shore before we fall into the water. But just a good memory for the rest of my life. It was a funny one. So, Dad, thank you for that. Number 5 is every summer, since my dad was a teacher, every summer he would work at different sleepaway camps, and we would go to sleepaway camp, and my dad would work there. So it was kind of cool because we got to see things, I guess, that other campers didn't. Sometimes my dad ran the kitchen. He was in charge of the whole kitchen, bringing in the food, ordering the food, the dishes, everything. He was the main kitchen guy. So it was cool. I could go in the kitchen and he would give me ice cream or cheat some other way. But it was nice having my dad at camp. It was a different experience, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing all the little things that the other campers didn't. Especially the last camp, I remember he had a trailer that he was staying in, not in a cabin. It was like a trailer. It was like the first time I ever saw a trailer, because I was, 14 years old. And I thought it was so cool, the trailer. So, thank you, Dad, for being with me at summer camp. Number 6 is my dad really liked watching James Bond movies, and I did too. I was kind of a strange kid because I was kind of a geek. I still am a geek. So I would like watching James Bond movies, so something that we did together a lot. We would watch the movies and talk about them, and we were very into them. I even learned how to play the James Bond theme on the piano. So thanks, Dad, for showing me James Bond, which I still love to this day. Number 7, as I mentioned, I'm kind of a geek. And when I was a kid, Star Trek was my favorite show, which I'm still into Star Trek today. And when I was, I don't remember, 8 or 9, I don't remember exactly, but there was a Star Trek convention in Philadelphia at the convention center. And probably my dad didn't like Star Trek because I used to watch it alone, but he took me to the Star Trek convention, and I was really excited. And that was the original Star Trek show. So they had, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, all those people there, and I got a bunch of autographs, and it was like one of the best things I ever did. I still remember how cool it was, and I still even have the autographs in a box in our closet. So thank you, Dad, for taking me to the Star Trek convention. Number 8 on my list is soap opera time. My dad loved watching soap operas for some reason. And when he would come home from school, he would watch them. And as we got older, we started watching them with him. So General Hospital was our favorite. And we would all come home from school and watch General Hospital, me and Dad and Bootsy, and I don't remember if Laura used to watch with us or not. Yeah. And we were all really into it, and we would talk about, oh my God, I can't believe this doctor did this and this one did that. And then what would happen, it was on from 3 to 4, I believe. And the mom used to come home from school about 3:45, let's say, and we were all intensely watching the show. Mom would come in the front door and say, I'm home. And all of us, including Dad, would go, shh, we're watching General Hospital. She didn't like that, but sorry, Mom. So thanks, Dad, for introducing us to soap operas. We had a lot of fun watching those shows, and I think he really enjoyed them too. Number 9 on the list, how could I get up here and speak without mentioning the words Penn State? As you may or may not know, my dad was an extremely huge Penn State fan. He was so happy that he had one daughter, Bootsy, go to Penn State, but he went to many, many Penn State games at Penn State. I don't even know how many years, but a really, really long time. Every game, every home game there. So when I was in college, I went to the University of Miami, and when I was there, for some reason, Miami and Penn State were playing each other. So what was Dad going to do? Because who's he going to root for? But I remember what he did was he bought 2 hats. He bought a Penn State hat and a University of Miami hat. And for the game, he put both hats on at the same time. I think he had both T-shirts on too, like a Miami T-shirt, Penn State T-shirt, and he told me that for half of the game, he was going to root for Miami, and then for the other half of the game, he was going to root for Penn State, because he was very torn between the 2 schools. But it's a fond memory for me, because he was really excited about it, because it was the 2 schools where the 2 daughters were at the time. And I don't remember who won, but Penn State, of course. There you go, Dad. And this brings me to my number 10, best memory of Dad, which is a little bit of a funny story. I believe it was for my sister Lori's wedding in Israel. We went to Israel for her wedding. And while we were there, we went to visit Masada and the Dead Sea. And me and my dad wanted to go in the Dead Sea. I don't remember where everybody else was, but I was with him. So you go in this little room and you kind of change into your bathing suit and get your towel, and then you have to walk to get to the Dead Sea. So I don't know what we were thinking. Well, I was only 19, so I'll blame it on him. No, but we get outside and we're walking in our bare feet, and the ground is like 250 degrees. So we start walking and we're like, ow, 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 because our feet are burning because we left our shoes in the place. So we each had a towel, we were going to dry off when we got out of the Dead Sea. And I said, Dad, I have an idea. So I threw my towel on the floor. I said, Dad, hop on my towel. He hops on the towel. I hop on the towel. I said, now, Dad, give me your towel. I threw the towel. He hopped on the towel. I hopped on the towel. I picked up the other towel. And we did the leapfrog hop one over the other with the towels all the way down to the water, but at least we didn't burn our feet. And we used to talk about that a lot and laugh because he remembered we were laughing the whole time at how ridiculous it was what we're doing, but at least we could get there without burning our feet. So thank you, Dad, for all these great memories. And I have a lot more, but I kept my list at 10. So I appreciate everything, Dad. And we'll keep all these memories close to my heart. I love you, Dad, and have a peaceful rest now. Thank you.
Jay, speaking on behalf of Butzi.
Lori and Leon, hope you can see us. And Modine. So Butzi asked me to share some memories that she has of Sabi. So first, he was a gourmet cook. Some of his specialties were chicken Kiev and crepes, and he had a well-worn chef's hat and apron he last used this past January to make challah and chumantashen with her. He drove her to gymnastics 5 to 6 days per week in Manayunk for many, many, many years. They spent many hours together going to gymnastics practice. Some of his nicknames were Mr. Butzi, Stan the Man, Stash, and Hans. She's still proud of the special trophy he made after she retired from gymnastics, including all the special honors that she earned in high school. She also remembers that he was not allowed in the gym during her meets because she was embarrassed that she wasn't better. If she was the son that he never had. On the day after they sold, Sabi and Safti sold their IBM stock, which probably was their entire life savings, to buy a fence. She proceeded to climb over the fence. If you said you wanted Breyer's ice cream, whatever flavor, like butter pecan, he would dig through the entire store to find the one carton left. And if he couldn't find one, he'd ask the store manager if there were any in the back. Once when Safti was in the hospital, he let his daughters, Butzi and her sisters, make Kool-Aid ice cubes. And when Safti came home, they told her to go back to the hospital because they were having too much fun. Like Marcy said, Butchie watched soap operas with Sabi all during high school, and General Hospital with Luke and Laura was their favorite. He loved technology and always wanted to buy the newest items. If he was born in another era, he would have probably worked in IT. He was a Mr. Fix-It, want to be, as long as you didn't mind the hot being cold and the cold being hot in the shower. He loved the barbecue, especially steaks. We had them at our pre-Yom Kippur meal for many years. He was a Reading Olympics coach for Mickey's school team and is still on a YouTube video of the first ever Montgomery County Reading Olympics. Sabi was a human GPS, but she would call him no matter where she was and ask where to go, what turn she should make, and would say north towards the river, and she would say the Schuylkill. No, he would say the Susquehanna. She remembers him sneaking her and her friends ice pops in the camp where he was the cook because favoritism was allowed if it was for Sabi's daughters. He was a true people person. He could make an instant connection to anyone, anywhere, and loved to schmooze, waitresses, medical staff, his customers, when he worked in Perloff's Jewelry Store for the Christmas rush. He did become a huge Penn State supporter after Butchie graduated. Lots of memorabilia and, as Marcy mentioned, lots of games. He loved to swim, and in his post-stroke years enjoyed water therapy. He loved to listen to music, especially Mario Lanza, Barbra Streisand, and Akiva's keyboard tunes. He traveled to many countries with Safdie after he retired from teaching and had the tchotchkes and photo albums to prove it. He considered himself quite the bartender for mixed drinks, but always loved beer and tapioca pudding, but not together. When Butchie was writing this last night, she had tears in her eyes and a smile on her face. He was the best father ever. I have a couple personal things. My relationship with Sabi got off to an interesting start. At our second dinner together, he ate some Chinese food that didn't agree with him, started to look a little pale. I got up to help him, and he leaned forward, hesitated, and then threw up all over me. A truly beautiful start to a 30-year friendship. The next time I saw Sabi a few months later, we sat down in his den, and he left the room and came back with a poster board. I couldn't figure out what the poster displayed until he started to explain the different cuts in the 4 C's of diamonds for an engagement ring. He wanted to make sure I had this information just in case I was ready to ask for his permission to marry his daughter. I did indeed ask her his permission that day, and my life with the Cohens was sealed forever. From those early years, our relationship grew to include long rides to Penn State's blue-white games, in which we talked about everything. Sabi was a very easy man to talk to, never judgmental and always supportive. I was privileged to know you. And I want to thank you for 2 very important things: always keeping life in perspective and making sure family came first. When we first got married, we were having some difficulties, money difficulties. I was in school. We didn't have any money, basically. But we decided we wanted to buy a house. So we were both accountants at the time, and we spent many hours preparing a detailed presentation for Sabi and Safdie. They asked if they would co-sign for us on a mortgage. Well, we never paid it past the first line or 2 before he cut us off and said yes. Never forget that. And for creating an incredible role model. They say that when you're on your deathbed, you never say, I should have spent more time working and less time with my family. Over the past July 4th weekend, when we shared a last shot of scotch, which Safdie thought I might have killed him, but I didn't, we sang a lot of old Army songs and laughed about many things, and there was no regret in your face. We can only aspire to all end our life that way.
Now, Amitai, on behalf of his mother.
Dear grandfather, who for us, the grandchildren, will always be known as Sabi. For this upcoming final face-to-face conversation from me to you, I had a difficulty in finding the point in which I would like to start. There are so many stories about you that could be told by each and every one of us, including the great times me and you shared together in Israel and the States, the time you spent with our family, the stories about the time of you growing up, and the stories told by the exceeding numbers of friends over the years that include the endless amount of what we call in Hebrew chesed you had done for the different synagogues you were a part of, and the chesed done by you to their members. I decided to start from the last time we met, which was the previous Leila Seder this year, which I'll always be grateful for that one last opportunity to visit before this one. At that time, as times were getting tougher and harder to bear due to the pain and drugs, he kept on being well aware of what was going on, making the brachot out loud, and taking an active part of the Seder. A few years ago, at our last visit as a family to America, it was in 2014, he said to us, "Please do not remember me this way. You felt back then that we did not see you as the brave and tough fighter that you truly are. The fighter who survived hard times in the American army, or times working 2 to 3 jobs at the same time to provide income and support the family, or the time you stood up in a chair in the middle of business class, picking up your head up and down, scaring everyone that comes nearby, and acting like a nut that no one will ever dare to put their own suitcases next to the Sefer Torah you were bringing with Safti to Israel to our shuls. From some odd reason, you felt that the final years of your life did not represent these stories. And I'm here to assure you that that was certainly not the case. I would like to quote late Aunt Bobby, who said to you during this period, "Stan, you're the bravest person I know. You kept on ducking, shifting aside, and blocking the punches thrown by death time after time without surrendering or giving in, and continuing this ongoing battle for over 7 years, when your goal was one, is to staying alive and keep on seeing us, talking to us each week, the grandchildren and your family. The times we shared together, with all the fun and laughs we had, will always be treasured in my heart." My mother, who couldn't be here physically, but is watching us and hearing us as we speak, sends this letter I would like to read on her behalf. "Dear Daddy, it is hard for me to believe that I will never see you again. I have so many memories of happy times that we enjoyed together as a family floating in my mind. You were a great father who invested a lot of energy in his children and was proud of all our achievement. You always had time to help us and when we needed some assistance in doing homework or other important projects. Unfortunately, our time with you has run out, and what is left are only happy memories of a true family man. Dad, we will miss you very much, and we will try to look after Mommy in your place best as a great husband can. It pains me very much that I wasn't able to be here. May you finally rest in peace forever. Love, Lori." I thank you all. That was my mother. I thank you all for coming here today. And before I conclude, I would like to make, on behalf of my grandfather, 2 last thank yous that came after things I've witnessed myself during this period. First, I would like to thank Alouette. As different aides went over the years, keep replacing them one after another, Alouette stayed by the side all these years, and as times getting tougher, requiring harder abilities, physical and mental abilities from her, but she didn't give up, staying aside all these times, facing things I've sold myself and hadn't imagined that someone has to go through. Thank you very much, Alouette. The last and far from least, the biggest hero out of all heroes, who wouldn't leave her husband's side for one moment, having to face over and over again decisions none of us could even imagine, which part of I witnessed myself, doing so with the feeling of heavy weights of responsibility on her shoulders, my dear Safta, who can teach us all a lesson about true love. Thank you, Safti, for the lesson of true love that you gave, and thank you, Alouette, for the lesson of family that you gave. They say that what stays from a person after he passes away is called his legacy. If we combine my grandfather's values, Sabi's values, and the lessons we have learned today from the living, we might be able to learn a thing or two about the true meaning of the important things of life.
Akiva. Dear Sabi, if I could, I would divide the world into two. People who talk a lot and do little, and people who talk little but do a lot. Unfortunately, you don't seem to fit into either category, in a good way, of course. On the one hand, you love to talk to people. You were very friendly and always tried to help people, either by giving them directions or arguing to get a better price or, where you knew people from and all those kinds of things. You had a lot to say just about everything. But on the other hand, you also did a lot. You were a man of education, a teacher of many students. You volunteered in IDF Sarel program. You helped build Sharei Shamayim in community and served in also many of the shul committees. And maybe not a lot of people here know, you and Safti helped build our shul in Modi'in endlessly. And I also stand here today, not as your grandson, but also as a Gabai, a representative of the Makaz Modi'in congregation. And also want to thank you for all your contribution, you and Safti's, for helping our shul in various ways. Also with the Sifrei Torah you brought to Israel, to our shul. Basically, you and Safti support Israel and Jerusalem in many various ways. And we know, Sabi, how much you loved Israel and Jerusalem. We could say that your talking skills, you always use your talking skills to do good things. So, you also talked a lot, but you also did a lot together. There's so much more that can be said about you, Sabi. But I don't really know what else to say except it was a privilege. It was a privilege being fetched by you when I was at Gan, kindergarten. It was a privilege to shave with you when I was just a kid, even though I didn't really have a beard or a mustache. Still don't. It was a privilege to spend all those summers here in the States with you and Safti. It was a privilege to watch your big black screen TV with you, and of course, falling asleep in front of it. It was a privilege to fall asleep on your belly too. It was a privilege to participate with you in the Mishpacha Olympics. It was a privilege to have water gun fights with you in our garden. It was a privilege to be taught by you how to ride a bicycle. It was a privilege to swim with you in the swimming pools during the hot summers in Israel. And Israel knows to have hot summers. It was a privilege to have Shabbat meals together at home, hotels, kibbutz Levi. And God knows how much you loved that, doing Shabbat meals together, singing Shabbos songs. It was a privilege to dance with you at my bar mitzvah. It was a privilege to go on the cruise ship for my bar mitzvah trip with you and Safti, drinking chocolate milkshakes. And, of course, we cannot forget, fighting the left-handed Russians when you were saying to them, Rega lo tov. In translation, wait, not good.
we can learn from how it was important for Sabi good manners and for people to behave. It was a privilege to spend time with you and Safti at your timeshare in Levi Yerushalayim. It was a privilege to go with you and Safti to Israeli Philharmonic Orchestra or hiking the water at Tzidkiyahu Tunnel in Jerusalem. And of course, it was a privilege to eat ice cream with you and Safti in the middle of the night on Ben Yehuda Street when everybody looked at us as if we were crazy. It was a privilege to cook, bake, and flip pancakes and omelets with you. It was a privilege to eat in good restaurants like Laguta with you. It was a privilege to go shopping with you, since you always made sure we get the best price. True. Basically, it was just a privilege to know you. And I can continue this endless list more and more and more. But I think I will just conclude and say, it was a huge privilege to be your grandson. And as you used to call me, best kiwi in the whole world. Hope you forgive me, forgive us for everything. And may you continue to look after us from up there like you did so well down here. Love you, Sabi. May your soul rest in peace.
Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm Marcy's daughter. I feel very fortunate to have had a Sabi like I did. Always full of stories, laughter, and love. Always wanting to put a smile on others' faces. He was very caring and kind. He will be truly missed. I have 3 fond memories I'd like to briefly touch on. Of course, there are countless ones, but I picked 3. The first was in kindergarten. It was Grandparents' Day, and Sabi and Safti came to school. Well, of course, I have the coolest grandparents ever, and Sabi did not disappoint that day. We had been working on a volcano for weeks that we would demonstrate erupting in front of the whole class. Definitely the coolest thing shown to our class that day, and probably even that year. The second and third memories represent the 2 history projects I did in middle school. Always full of knowledge and always wanting to teach. Sabi and Safti jumped at the opportunity to spend time with their grandchild and do schoolwork. After all, they were both teachers. 7th grade, we did a project about my passion at that time, acting. My project board was lined with red curtains, the poster boards used for the science project. We had it on the side, on the top, like the Broadway curtains. It's the coolest thing. I spent weeks with Sabi and Safti researching musicals through the years. It was fun to hear them tell me their favorite musicals, and I shared mine. Spending time with them was always fun. 8th grade was no different. I did a project on the history of the state of Israel, a project we were all passionate about. It was the year after my bat mitzvah, so it was perfect time to learn more about the history of my people and how we came to be. All my memories with Sabi, and of course Safti, are wonderful and beautiful. Sabi, you will truly be missed.
Eitan.
Thank you all for coming out today to honor my grandfather, Sabi. It means an awful lot to my family to see so many friends gathered here with us during this time. Floating around through space on an unsympathetic ball of dirt and water, it can be all too easy to live a life devoid of direction and meaning. This is not the life that Sabi lived. Sabi fought to live a life of passionate purpose. He was a builder, a creator. He was a shaper of minds. He founded and constructed synagogues, literally building communities with his bare hands. Their continued existence is a testament to his sheer force of will and prescient stewardship. He opened the eyes of countless students to the wonders of chemistry, inspiring them to pursue careers advancing humanity's collective knowledge. In college, after a slight gaffe at the scorer's table while working a basketball game, he even got the audience of an entire gym to rise to their feet and furiously chase him out of the building. Who else could so easily inspire that many people to action? Sabi had a strong gravitational pull. Anyone who wandered into his vast orbit was instantly hooked. My favorite picture of Sabi is of him in his white swimming trunks on a cruise ship while on vacation. He is surrounded by a rapt audience, all eyes transfixed on the live man on center stage, who, with head tilted back, is chugging a towering glass of beer so large that would have likely sent any number of his beloved Penn State Nittany Lion offensive linemen to the ER to have their stomach pumped. But not Sabi. With his patented Cohen belly, which was still in early stages of development at that time, he likely burped and asked for another one. Like grandfather, like grandson. Sabi was 30 when my mom was born, the same age my mom was when I was born. While his love of beer skipped a generation, we were all strikingly similar. Just as Sabi spent years ferrying my mom to gymnastics practices and competitions, my mom performed the same thankless ritual for me as I flirted with the idea of becoming the first athlete to play professional soccer, basketball, and baseball. While I felt inches short of this goal, I know that Sabi will be on my mind when I, God willing, have the pleasure of driving my own kids around town to dominate youth athletics someday soon. While our visits were too few and far between in the winter years of his life, his phone calls were drops of honeyed sunshine, instantly illuminating the day. I will always miss him and love him.
Chazal, in particular the Yalkut, relate that when the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was completed, that Moshe Rabbeinu produced an accounting of the construction costs. However, he was amazed to discover an apparent discrepancy of 1,775 shkolim. At that moment, he noticed the krasim, the clasps, which held the tabernacle together. We are quick to admire the exotic, the unusual, the dramatic. It catches our eye. But we may neglect to appreciate the familiar, the things that surround us daily. Moshe surely took pride when he saw the Aron HaKodesh, the menorah, the Mizbeach. Did they outshine each tiny keres? The krasim, the clasps, responsible for making the tabernacle a whole unit, a one. As we read in Shemos Chofav, Pasuk Vav, and thou shalt make 50 clasps of gold, and couple the curtains one to another, with the clasps, that the tabernacle may be one whole. A synagogue is a sanctuary in miniature. Some members symbolize the Aron HaKodesh, the Ark, devoting time to Torah study or supporting B'nai Torah. Others, who like the altar, offer their time and energy for the benefit of the shul. And still others, like the menorah, see to it that the sanctuary is bright and comfortable. There are, however, those members who, without fanfare, keep the shul moving forward. These are the krasim of our shuls. And this was Stan Cohen. I remember the few years we shared together at Shara Shemayim. He was omnipresent. He was always doing. And the results were positive. At the very inception of the Greater Northeast congregation, Stan and Joan were part of the original 10, meeting wherever space was available. Whatever needed doing, leading, teaching, they were there. Stan was there. Hebrew school teacher and principal, education director, adult education, pushing programs. We suspect he may have picked up direction from the famous Rabbi Silver in Harrisburg, his rabbi in Harrisburg as a young. Also, Rabbi Silver was a leader of Agudas Rabbanan. And all the while, he had what took to drive science programs, chemistry programs, Washington High, or later on Holy Family College, and plenty of energy to back Joan in her ambitions, leading to the presidency of Shir Shamayim. There are too few Krasim Jews remaining, which makes the passing of Stanley Cohen so painful. Yet the good he has done, the hearts he has won, and the souls he has touched will inspire a new generation of Krasim Jews who will build bridges between people, forming new congregations to hold our community together. Let Stanley Cohen pass into eternity, his record assured, his harvest to come not only from all that he has accomplished, but from what you will continue to do, in order that from on high he may bless your work and be himself blessed with the peace which passes understanding. As we say, as we have always said, Adonai nosan, Adonai lokach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Please rise for the memorial prayer. El Moli Rachamim, Shochein Mamreimim, Amitzei Menuchanechono, Al Kanefei Ashchino, Mimalos Kedoshim Udhoirim, Kezohar Horoki Amazhirim, Es Nishmos, Shemanos Ben Avram Zolach, Leolamo, Meganeiden Tehem Menuchoso, Wanobal Horachamim, Masdirehu B'Seiser Kenofov, Leolamim. Vizror HaChaim, Es Nishmoso, Adonai Nagaloso, V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkovo, V'nomar Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Stanley Cohen, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and the righteous deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is his portion. May he rest in peace. Let us say, Amen. Please be seated. Following internment at Shalom Memorial Park, the family will return for Shiva to the home of Butzi and Jay Weinstein, 302 Bala Avenue, Bala Kinwood. I'm sure the directions are in the handout.